Why do black people claim to be the original Jews, the original Israelites, according to the Bible? Now I'm going to tell you straight up, it's because it's the truth. Not only is it the truth, but it's also a spiritual awakening that the Most High is giving the Israelites to tell them to wake up from being asleep in America for over 400 years, okay? And a lot of people are wondering, if we're Israelites, how did we get from Jerusalem all the way to the west coast of Africa? I'm gonna answer this question with Luke chapter 21 and verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem, this is Jesus speaking. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, which armies are these talking about? It's talking about the Roman Empire, because they were the only armies in power at this time in this area. Then know that the desolation thereof is near. So Jesus is saying, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by the Roman Empire, know that the destruction is near. Verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee into the mountains. What mountains is he talking about there? It's talking about Egypt. Okay, and I'm going to prove it later in Matthew 2 and 13. And let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them which are in the countries enter thereinto. Verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword. So the people who don't run into Egypt, they're going to fall by the edge of the sword, which means they're going to die. Okay? And they shall be led away captives into all nations. The people who do run into Egypt shall be led away captive into all nations. Okay? And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. It's saying Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Which means that the people who are in Jerusalem right now saying that they're the real Jews are actually liars. Because the Bible said Jerusalem shall be trodden down by Gentiles until the times of Gentiles be fulfilled. That means when Christ comes back, then he's going to fulfill the Gentiles being in rulership. He's going to put an end to Gentiles ruling, because the Israelites are going to be ruling. Israelites are going to be ruling the earth when Jesus comes back. So it says Gentiles will be in Jerusalem until Christ comes back. So those people who are calling themselves Jews in Jerusalem are not the real Jews, and they are liars, okay? Now I'm going to go to Matthew chapter 2 and verse 13, because I'm going to prove to you that when it said run into the mountains, it's actually talking about Egypt. Run into Egypt, okay? Africa. Matthew chapter 2 and verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. So an angel appeared to Joseph in a dream, telling him, run into Egypt, okay? Because King Herod was trying to kill him. He had to blend in with the black faces in Egypt, so King Herod could not find him. King Herod is a white Roman man, so King Herod could not find him and kill him, okay? Also, when Jesus and his family ran into Egypt, those are the same mountains he was talking about in Luke 21 and 20. Okay? So let me sum it up. Jesus was telling the Israelites, hey, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, run into Egypt. Run into Africa, okay? And everybody who runs into Africa, their descendants are going to be slaves. And the people who stay in Jerusalem are going to die. So basically, yeah. And that's biblical. That's the biblical side. Now I'm going to get the historical side. This is a book called From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. He was a black historian who he went to Africa. He went to Jerusalem. He went to Mesopotamia. He did all his research. He knows what he's talking about. I'm going to go to page 84. Page 84. The second paragraph of page 84. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. See, it says many atrocities were committed with the residue of the people, and with great slaughter. Like I said, many will fall by the edge of the sword, and this just said with great slaughter. But let's keep reading. Hold up. It said with the residue of the people. What does that mean? The people who stayed in Jerusalem, those are the residue, and they all died, just like Jesus said. But let's keep reading. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa. Just how I said in Luke 21:20, flee into the mountains is also documented in history. Fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. And the slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. Just like it said, they would go into captivity. They went into captivity. This is documented in a historical book. Okay? I'm going to read that last part again. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa. Just like I said, running to the mountains. That's documented history. Now, so I'm going to sum it up again. They ran into Africa. They ran into Egypt, and eventually they left Egypt, and they went to the Sahara Desert. In the Sahara Desert, it's so dry. So they was in search for water. So they ended up on the west coast of Africa. And I'm going to show you how dry it is in the Sahara Desert. In the Sahara Desert, it is so dry. Every time the wind blows, if it's a hard wind, dirt and dust will rain, basically. It will rain from the sky, and that's documented. This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all thy commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So Moses is speaking through the Spirit of God, saying to the Israelites, if you break his commandments, some curses will come upon you. Verse 24. Here's a curse that matches up perfectly with when the Israelites ran into the Sahara Desert. Verse 24. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven it shall come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. See? It said the Lord will make the rain of your land powder and dust. That's because they ran into the Sahara Desert. It was so dry out there they had to keep going and search for water. Some of them went south and most of them went west. They went to the west parts of Africa. And when they went to the west parts of Africa, this is what happened to them. Deuteronomy 28 verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. What does Egypt mean? I'm going to go to the book of Exodus chapter 20 verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So Egypt is the house of bondage, okay? So I'm going to read that again. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt, the house of bondage, which is slavery, again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. God said, you will go into slavery again on ships. No other nation, no other race of people went into slavery on ships. We're the only people who went into slavery on ships. Okay? It says, you shall see it no more again. We never seen Jerusalem. We never went back to our own homeland. We staying in America until Christ comes back. Okay? And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for a bondman and bondwoman, and no man shall buy you. It says, when you get off those slave ships, you shall be sold to your enemies. Okay? And no man shall buy you. No man shall redeem you. No man shall save you. No man can save us. We have always been oppressed. We're still being oppressed. Malcolm X did not save us. Martin Luther King did not save us. Rosa Parks did not save us. We have not been saved by no one. The only person who can save us is the Savior, Yahweh Shah, Jesus Christ. That's the only person who can save us. But I got to be real with you now. It's not white people's fault that we went into slavery. The Most High God put that curse upon us for breaking his commandments. So really, it's not the white people's fault for us going into slavery. It's our own fault. But I still got to tell the truth. We cannot forget about Revelation chapter 13, verse 10. I'm going to read it. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Simple. They led us into captivity. Guess what? They're going to go into captivity in the kingdom, okay? He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints. Okay? Simple. He that leadeth into captivity, he will go into captivity. He will be a slave. They are going to be slaves. Y'all white people, y'all going to be slaves in the kingdom. Most High did not forget about us being slaves under y'all. That was only, 300 years ago we were slaves under y'all? Less than that, maybe? Like it says in 1 Peter's, 1,000 years to God is one day. So that was a few hours ago to God. He has definitely not forgot about that. And guess what? He's going to repay it to y'all again. So now we're going to see the descriptions and the color of the Israelites in the Bible. Let's see what Jeremiah looked like. Okay, he is a Jew. Jeremiah is a Jew. Let's see what he looked like. This is the book of Jeremiah chapter 8 and verse 21. For the hurt of the daughter of my people, I am hurt. I am black. Astonishment have taken hold on me. Okay? Simple. He said he's black, and that's very self-explanatory. I really don't have to explain that at all. Now we're going to go to, it's also in Jeremiah. This is what the Jews look like. The Jews. Jeremiah chapter 14 verse 2. Judah mourneth. Who is Judah? Judah is long for Jew. Okay, the word Jew comes from Judah. It says Judah mourneth. The Jews are in a mourning state. That matches with us because our very form of music is called what? The blues. Because we're sad, we're depressed, okay? And the gates thereof language. That also matches with us. Gates represents the leaders. Our leaders have failed us. We're still oppressed. Like I said, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, they never saved us from what we are still oppressed. They never saved us from that. Okay? They are black unto the ground. That also matches up with this. Because we are black unto the ground. Okay? Black unto the ground, what does that mean? Different shades of brown. Because if you look at the dirt on the ground, it goes from a very light brown unto a very, very, very dark brown, which is black. That's why it says they are black unto the ground. The Jews are black unto the ground. It matches with us perfectly because we're all different shades of brown, okay? And the cry of Jerusalem has gone up. We're crying, man. We're depressed. It matches up with us perfectly. Now I'm going to go to Lamentations chapter 4 verse 8. Their visage is blacker than a coal. That's also self-explanatory. It's talking about the Israelites. Their face. Visage means face. Is black. Okay, I'm going to Lamentations again, chapter 5 verse 10. Our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine. They were in a famine for breaking God's commandments. And guess what? When a white person when a white person goes through a famine, they will definitely not turn black. Okay, that proves that it's talking about us. Okay, because they were brown, but then they got blacker because when skin lacks nutrients, that's what happens. I'm going to go to the book of Job chapter 30 and verse 30. The book of Job chapter 30 verse 30. My skin is black upon me and my bones are burned with heat. Okay, he's black. Self-explanatory. Okay. Now this is King Solomon. Note, King Solomon was the smartest man who ever set foot on this earth. If you ever read the book of Proverbs, you would know how smart King Solomon is. The book of Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem. Let's go to verse 1. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. King Solomon said this, but some people probably still say it's a woman. Let's see how his woman described what he looked like. A lot of people use this very verse to say that he's white, but I'm explaining. My beloved is white and ruddy. It said my beloved is white and ruddy. See, that was actually one of the very few mistranslations of the King James Bible. White in Hebrew is Laban, but it didn't say Laban in the original text. It actually said Tazak, which means dazzling. And those were a few descriptions of the black people in the Bible, and they were all Israelites. They were all Jews. Shalom.